Hi, everyone, and welcome to Woman Enough for Marriage. My name is Wumi Ajayi. If you're new to my channel or if you've been watching me and you have not subscribed, please do subscribe so that you can get the notification when I release new videos. This is a channel where we talk everything marriage. No man is man enough for marriage, and no woman is woman enough for marriage. It's all about working at it. It's all about, trying to grow and develop so that we can enjoy our marriages better. In my last video, I started a series on communication, and it's an acknowledgement of the importance of communication in our marriages, in fact, in any relationship at all, because communication is the lifeline of any relationship. We fall in love through communication, and the only way to stay in love in marriage is to make sure that we keep working at communication and learning to communicate with each other better. Most relationship breakdowns start with a breakdown in communication. So today I'll be talking about listening and speaking as important aspects of our communication. To listen is to give one's attention to a sound, to take notice of what they're saying, and to act on what they're saying. James 1:19 says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." So actually, listening is twice as important than speaking. And if we think about it, actually, we've only got one mouth, but we've got two ears. And God is trying to tell us something that in our relationship, we need to listen more. And in talking about the parable of the sower, Jesus was saying in Luke 8:18a, he says, "Therefore, consider carefully how you listen." It's important that we learn to listen effectively, because how we listen ultimately affects how we process the information that we've been presented with. And it ultimately determines how we respond to the information that we've been presented with. Often when people say things like, "You're not listening to me," it's not because you are not listening to the sound. It's because you're not listening effectively, or you are listening and you're not acting on the things that they are saying. Now, how do we listen effectively? It's important that we listen with attention, because building friendship and growing in marriage takes time and attention. I can't overemphasize that. And attention is today's currency. We all know that. There's so many things clamoring for our attention. That phone ping, that new post by the influencer you follow, and all that. There's so many things, TikTok, videos, from one to another to another. Everybody, wants to catch your attention. And the test of our self discipline and our maturity is that we're able to reserve our attention to only what matters. When we take children to the shop, often the children, they are busy looking at everything that is attractive, that toy, that yellow thing, that bright thing. Whereas the adult is there thinking, "Oh, I need to buy cereal, I need to buy milk, I need to make sure I buy enough vegetable and all that." And that's because an adult is an adult. And so when it comes to our attention, we cannot afford to be children. We need to learn to reserve our attention, to give our attention to what is important. And we also live horrid lives. Horrid lives affect our attention. Fast meal, drive through, fast lane, people will pay extra so that they don't have to queue. We are being, conditioned to think that we can just, get everything quick, quick, quick. We can always, we're always in a hurry. And that fools us in thinking that we can multitask when it comes to communication or when it comes to listening. So yeah, the TV can be on, I can be watching something and I'm still listening. I can be scrolling through my phone. Oh yeah, I'm still listening. I can just be checking my Instagram while I'm listening. But it doesn't work like that. We cannot listen effectively when we cannot pay attention to what the other person is telling us. Jesus was a very busy man, but he did not live a hurried life. So we can be busy without living a hurried life. There are two different things. We also live in an age of information overload. We snack on YouTube short, Facebook reels, Instagram pictures, TikTok videos, and all that. We can easily occupy our minds and our attention with useless information, the things that don't matter. And so we don't have room to pay attention to our spouse. We don't have room for actual information that matters, information that will affect our lives, information that will affect our marriage. And sometimes, both couples can be guilty. Because you're doing it, you can't complain that your spouse is doing it. And so, when it comes to communication and improving on our communication, we need as a couple to be sitting there and be saying, right, how can we improve it? What are we doing wrong? The danger is that we might be oblivious to the damage that these things, information overload and all that, is doing to our communication as a couple, and to our marriage as a whole. And sometimes by the time we realize it, the damage has become irreparable. So we need to be paying attention to how we communicate, and discipline is key. If we don't rule these things, they are ready to rule our lives. They will rule us, and that is the truth. We need to put safeguards in our lives. And we have to remember that the children are also watching. For me, one of the wake up call was when my daughter told me that, Mom, anytime I'm talking to you, you're always looking at your phone. Initially, I was like, no. And then she said, yes, Mom. Anytime I'm talking to you, you're looking at your phone. And I know she can't be lying. It's something that she's observed over and over again. And I was doing it without even thinking. And sometimes, we can fall into that trap. We get so used to it that we do it without thinking. And I'm sure I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm listening to you. But to her, she wants that attention. If I'm looking to my phone and she's talking to me, I can't say that I'm listening, that I'm actually listening, giving her the attention that she needs. To listen effectively, we also need to listen with interest. And actually, showing interest in what someone is saying is a reflection of respect. It says to them that they have something worthwhile to say. We might think you know where the conversation is going, or you know how the conversation is end, or you already have an answer even before, or a solution even before they utter the first word. But out of respect for our spouse, we should allow them to talk. We should listen with interest. We can make a fool out of our spouses, and we can actually discourage them from talking. When someone is talking to you and you're everything about you is showing that you are not interested in what they are saying. You're yawning, you're shifting, you're looking away, you're waving to dismiss them, you're talking over them, you won't let them land before responding. These are all disrespectful behaviors, and it's telling our spouses that what they are saying is not worth your time, it's not worth listening to. It's also important that we listen intently and with honesty, patience, and empathy, because this is the only way that we can put ourselves in their shoes, and that we can actually respond appropriately. When we listen with concentration, when we listen intently, when we listen with honesty, like nothing else matter to us than what they want to say to us. With patience, not looking at your watch, not asking them, oh, just get to the point. What exactly are you trying to say? You're becoming impatient. We need to listen with patience. We need to listen with empathy. Empathy is actually our ability to understand and to share the feelings of another. And this is the only way to hear the feelings behind the words. We talk about listening to not just the words that the person is speaking, but actually the feelings behind the words that they're saying. It all communicates love to our spouses when we're patient with them, when we listen with empathy, and when we listen honestly. If we don't listen to our spouse with honesty, the chances are that we might misconstrue what they're saying. We might misunderstand what they're saying, or we might even try to put our own into it and add to what they're saying, which is not a way to listen effectively, and will do our communication no good. It's also important that we listen to understand. Somebody, a sales trainer called Jeff Thorpe says, never say, I understand, until you really do. Oftentimes, people know, oh, I understand, I understand. Do you actually understand? But it's important that we make deliberate effort to understand. Sometimes we find people listening so that they can form a reply. It's a trap that we all fall into, especially during a conflict. Listening to understand sometimes might mean that we have a change of perspective on the issue. Because if you really, really listen and you understand, you know, you might get to the point where you actually have a change of heart. You start to see things from a different perspective. Because in communication, it should not be in marriage, it should not be about winning or losing an argument or about who is right or who is wrong. In a truly loving marriage, we should not be afraid or too proud, to put our hands up and say, actually, I agree with you. I can see now from your perspective. But the only way we can get to that point is when we actually listen to understand what our spouses are saying. It's also important that we listen with the right intention to act on what is being said. Like I started off, talking about what listening actually means. To listen is to also act on what has been said. And one of the reasons, couples might get discouraged from communicating or talking to each other is because there's lack of action on what has been said. A spouse might get to the point where they see no point in saying the same thing over and over again because, well, you've not actioned it. I keep saying it. You said you would action it, but you haven't actioned it. As individuals in a married relationship, we need to make up our minds that when we listen with the intention not to just listen, but to act on what our spouse is saying. It might be an action, maybe something they want you to do, or a change, or an expected response based on what they have said. And all these things will help our communication to improve. Now, moving on to speaking. To speak is to just to say words, to use our voice to say words, to convey information or to express our feelings. And how we convey the message is as equally important as the message, because the message, what we say when we talk, has three parts to it. There's the content, the actual message, the tone of our voice, and the body language that accompanies it. And these three elements account differently for the meanings of the message. Often what we do is we concentrate on the words, but we forget about the body language, we forget about the tone of our voice, which are equally important aspects of talking, of speaking. In speaking, it's important to be congruent, which means that our body language, our tone of voice should be consistent with the words that we're using. If not, we can cause misunderstanding and confusion, and we can reduce the prospect of actually getting our message across so that it is understood by our spouse. We all probably have heard about the 738 and 55% rule, which is a conclusion of a research by a psychologist, Albert Mehrabian is called, in 1971. He looked at communications of feelings and attitudes. He found a disproportionate influence of tone of voice and body language when someone says they like or they dislike something or someone, but their tone of voice or body language implies the opposite. Because commonly this means that two or more of the three elements, they're ambiguous, which means the words that you're saying is not consistent with your tone of voice or your body language. So if someone says, I don't have a problem with you, and then they avoid eye contact while they're saying it, or they still sound very anxious, or someone is saying, I love you, and they're frowning and looking away, that doesn't necessarily match. So the body language does not match the words that they're speaking. So it's important that when we speak, we make sure that our body language and the tone of voice actually matches the words that we're speaking. But all in all, the speaker must take responsibility for any failure to communicate effectively. It's our fault. It's not the fault of our listeners. So we need to take responsibility to make sure that we are understood. The other aspect when it comes to speaking is our choice of words. Words do matter. They matter to us. Otherwise, we won't be using words. And the same way that words matter to us is the same way that they matter to our spouses. Words can build, words can tear down. I'll be talking about the power of the tongue in my next video. The heart can be the heart of the matter, actually, when it comes to speaking and the choice of words that we use. If we look at Luke 6:45, it says, "A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of." So we need to regularly examine our hearts, because when our hearts are full of resentment, selfishness, anger, disregard, hate, and all those things, then our words, our mouth will speak toxic things, words that tears down rather than words that that build up. That's when people say things like, "Oh, you're foolish, you're stupid, you're good for nothing." All these toxic words. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. When the heart is full of love, love for your spouse, respect for your spouse, compassion, empathy, and all other positive emotions, then the mouth will speak words that build up. Even in times of conflict, even when it comes to correcting, we will learn to correct our spouses in love. When we're criticizing, we'll criticize them constructively rather than destructively. So, I think this is really, really important, actually. When it comes to speaking, what's in your heart? We can often justify, using negative and toxic words by how we're feeling, how our spouses are, how they made us feel, and how their actions made us feel, and all that. But these are all self deception, because the Bible says, "Make a tree good, and its fruits will be good." If we work on ourselves, to store up good things in our hearts, to love our spouses, to respect them, then it doesn't matter. It will take a lot for anything or anyone or any situation to squeeze negative words, toxic words out of us. So it's about working on ourselves first of all. I'm still going to talk about our emotions, but we need to work on our heart. If we make ourselves good, make our tree good, the words that will be coming out of them, even in times of conflict, they will not be toxic words. And when we choose our words, it's important that we analyze our choice of words. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." The Message Bible says, "Watch the way you talk. Let nothing foul or dirty come out of your mouth. Say only what helps, each word a gift." So it's our responsibility not to let any unwholesome, words, any corrupt word, profane, worthless, vulgar words. No exception is made for when we are angry. It's not, the Bible is not saying when you are, if you are not angry. No, even when we are angry, annoyed, upset by someone's words, their actions or behavior, the Bible is saying, do not let. It's our responsibility. So it's important that we slow down and think before we speak. That's why the Bible says, "Be slow to speak." Often in times of anger, the first thing that comes to your mind is not always the right response. So we need to learn self control. We need to learn self discipline. Slow down, take time to think. It's important to do an honest self check before we speak. Am I saying these things just to make myself feel better, to alleviate my frustration and anger? Would I be talking to my co-worker or my boss like that? Have I thought through what I'm saying and how I'm saying it? What I'm saying, is it going to make my spouse feel better or worse? Are they going to like my comment or my tone? Would I like being on the receiving end of my own message? We can try replaying our own comment and tone to ourselves, and think, if my spouse or if someone is speaking to me like this, will I like it? And is what I'm saying going to make the situation better or worse? Is it going to escalate the conflict, what I'm saying? And if it's going to escalate the conflict, why? What do we stand to gain? We should not be people that engage in a contest of exchanging toxic words. It profits no one. It might make you feel good temporarily, but that's where it ends. It profits no one. So we need to choose our words properly. And in choosing the words that we speak to our spouses, it's important that we choose words that speaks to our deepest needs. It's been said that we hear, words through our deepest needs. Men hear words through honor and respect, which are their two deepest needs. Women hear words through security and care. So if we say things, that encrypt these codes, these needs in our conversations, the more we do that, the more we'll be able to achieve meaningful and successful communication. We all need to learn to do that. The things that I'm saying, will my husband feel respected or disrespected? Will my wife feel, cared for and loved by the things I'm saying, and the tone of my voice and how I'm saying it? If we do this check, then it will help us. Now, talking about the control of emotions when we speak, we need to own our emotions. We need to own our feelings. It's okay to, to talk about how we feel. I'm not happy. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. It's okay. But we should not get into making other people responsible for how we feel. When we say things like, you made me angry, it's a choice to be angry. The same thing that they have done to you that made you angry, somebody else might just wave it off. Emotional outbursts, shouting matches, screaming, it's not communication. Mourning and complaining is not communication. What those things do is that they reflect our inability to control our emotions. We can use timeout. If one person or both of us are struggling to control our emotions, we can use timeout. But we should be able to say that, look, we can't continue this conversation. Let's have a timeout, and we'll come back to it. We are not saying use timeout as as an avoidance opportunity, but it should be an opportunity to get control of our emotions and then regroup. And if you're the one that is using the timeout, you should take it upon yourself to make sure that the conversation is not swept under the carpet. You should come back and say, right, okay, I feel better now. Can we talk? Or I feel calmer now. Can we talk? And finally, we should avoid transfer of aggression or displaced aggression. Somebody has hurt you, has upset you at work, maybe, or you're angry because a driver has just shouted at you, and then you get home, you transfer it to your spouse because they're the closest person to you. No, we should be emotionally intelligent and mature enough to be able to identify the source of whatever negative feelings we are experiencing and to discuss them with our spouses rather than letting innocent spouses bear the brunt of someone else's offense. So to round up, I found this acronym which I think is really really good. It's think. THINK. So the things that we're saying to our spouses, we can use this to check it. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it important? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope I will see you in my next video. God bless you. Bye.